Well, good morning, travelers. Good day or good evening, whenever you're listening to this. This is the Welcome Travelers podcast about everything about traveling, about my experience of traveling, and I'm gonna explore and share my stuff, really. So this would be a kind of a multimedia podcast. So you have your audio, and you'll also have some video. We do some slideshows, some photography of my past travels, and some videos. Now, this purpose of this podcast is pretty much encourage new travelers to travel, or some veteran travelers out there to explore new places. This kind of gives confidence to people to travel more, explore more, adventures, all this other stuff. You could check out this podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or if you want to watch the video side of it, you can go to YouTube. Now, with our YouTube side of things, we might add like maybe a 10-minute video clip of a highlight reel of our chosen destination of that episode. Or if we have a guest on, we might share their works, and we might do like a fun special field trip with the guest and I, if they have any recommendations here. Now, I'm located here in the Pacific Northwest in Washington. Grew up in the Midwest, Key, so if you're some Midwesterns, you get to enjoy the visual, digital aspects of the Pacific Northwest. We'll introduce some cross-state, cross-road trip parks, national parks, and we'll definitely go for more international. Now, this episode, our first episode, is going to be mostly for Ireland, but we're going to kind of give you kind of more of a general idea about myself, really. And before I get to myself, I kind of lay out the future, what the episodes would be like. So far, we might do like, for today, we're doing one location for myself solo. I'll talk about Ireland, I'll talk about my experiences, my preparation for it, how the stories, and what my tips would be for any future travelers to go there, or recommendations, of course. And if you have guests on, we'll talk about their stuff. And usually the guest stuff will probably be depending from photographers, artists, landscape painters. We get a lot of people who have some outdoors experiences, camping, and just anything that involves with different cultures, foods, traveling, landscape, nature. We kind of do more of a variety of stuff and see where this leads to. In my own experiences of travels, I've been traveling internationally since probably officially since 2017. I've been to a few foreign countries before then. It's more like leisure fun stuff. Been to Mexico and then to a small island called Antigua. But lately I've been to Ireland, Iceland, Italy, and then we took a trip to St. Lucia this past year. We try to go internationally once a year before the pandemic, and now we've been waiting for it to be more safe to travel for us, since my partner works in the medical field, and for safety reasons, of course. So, and I do photography and video, and I do a lot of landscape, nature photographies. I do a lot of urban photography too, just kind of more traveling pictures, I guess. And I've been wanting to do something more video side of things. And it's been kind of difficult for me to try to navigate that with myself and try to film myself to a blog or something. So I think this podcast would be a great kind of silver lining, a great way to share my experiences, share my work, and also kind of let others to enjoy and hopefully like participate in it. We'll get some good guests on, some people who, a variety of stuff, like I said, photographers, artists, people who do like outdoor stuff, people who do some outdoor challenges, food, culture, everything. We're just trying to explore it all. So again, you can catch this on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and on the next following day, you'll be seeing this on YouTube as well. So the layouts of this show, I guess for like a solo show like me, I will talk about the preparation to the location, the actual flight there, and give you some of my share stories, details, troubles, things I found interesting, some fun facts. And yeah, it should be pretty fun. So I guess back to talking about myself, one of the things that I guess my fears and anxiety of traveling before I started doing it, I was kind of nervous about it. I was like, oh, this will be fun, but I don't know. It's like I always find some excuse to say no. Like usually it's like from like the traveling the distance over plane, the money. What would it be like if I'm in a country by myself, or if I'm with someone else too? Like we're just us against the world mentality in a way, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's some anxiety, and I always find some excuse too. Like I planned a European trip when I was in college in the summertime, but money was an issue, or I made these like negative thoughts prevent me to do these things that I do now. And since I've done these, a lot of my anxieties, a lot of my worries was kind of answered. I was like, oh, this is not as bad. It doesn't cost as much compared to like going to Disney World here in the US. This place is just as safe or even safer than here in the US. There's a lot of nice, kind people out there, and you have to be smart. You use your common sense for a lot of things too. And then I got into, like I mentioned before, videography and photography. I got more into it during the pandemic because like people interaction was very limited, and we moved during the pandemic as well. So just kind of find a new outlet for photography and videos, and it's just been wonderful. And again, my goal here is just trying to encourage travelers. I mean, of course, show off my work. I take pride in my skills as a photographer and videographer. So of course, like letting people see that is great, but also hear people's stories, share their stories, and encourage others to like, this is very possible for you to do. So right now I'm going to talk about Ireland. Yeah, the reason why we picked Ireland was, one, it's a kind of a short enough trip. It's like one of the first countries or islands you get before you go to Europe. So the flight was going to be about 6-ish hours. So the flight over there won't be as bad. It'd be kind of a good, like, I don't know, segue for me to endure. And then also, like, it's an English speaking country. So like I get to understand the people there better. If there's troubles, I can not have to worry about that as well. So that's kind of eased me a little bit more too. And another thing too, Ireland is just amazing from afar. The culture there, the people was told was very nice, and I'll let you know if that was true or not. The landscapes of it was amazing. There's some there's some like great, like eye-opening bucket list stuff that I've always wanted to take pictures of. So that's a plus. The beer culture and the alcohol culture there was pretty fun. The food looks great. So it was a good like segue. And then you see some castles, some Gothic architecture, which is fun. All right, so we picked our dates out, and we decided to go the first week of May. So we flew out from KC to Atlanta, I think, and then Atlanta to Dublin. And this is my first international trip over a body of water that's not the Gulf of Mexico. And I was a little nervous. I kind of enjoyed that we traveled, all the times we traveled in Europe, we flew in during the nighttime and then we landed in the morning time, which kind of helped. If you can fall asleep on the airplane, that helps a lot. But I'm a type of person who cannot fall asleep. And my jet lag was a little messed up a little bit. I think when we landed in Dublin, it was about 7 a.m., but it was only like 11 p.m. or midnight where we're from. So my internal clock was off. And I can't fall asleep normally if I was back home. It takes me a long time. So I was awake the whole time in the airplane. Didn't fall asleep, which was a mistake. And I'll explain that later. And yeah, it was tiresome. But the trip itself, so the 6-hour flight was actually much, much better than I expected it to be. we went on Delta, and we had these tablets in front of our seats so we could watch TV shows, movies, music, games. So that helped a lot to speed up the process. But also, like, so since we're flying international, drinks and alcoholic beverages were free, or I guess most common ones. So you could drink for free. If that helps you to fall asleep faster, then that's probably a good thing. Also, like, I didn't choose that route because I can't drink alcohol on high altitude pressure, so I get pretty good headaches from that. And they feed you so much food on that. Like, every hour there was something, like snacks, second snacks. There's your dinner. You wake up for like a early morning snack in 3 a.m. in the morning, and then there was like your breakfast, and then there was like your juice time or something, or breakfast / snack time. And like, I was so full by the time we landed, and it was pretty jarring too. So we landed in Dublin, and it was interesting because, like, I can't remember if we flew over the town or not. I don't think I was sitting next to the window. And this is back in 2017, so my memory is a little hazy. Or those brain cells are just dead. But we landed, and I looked out looked out the window of the airplane, and there was a bunch of sheep in a field. I was like, oh, it's nice green pasture and sheep. I was like, oh, I guess I'm in Ireland. So we got out, went through customs. Customs is always a pain no matter where you go, but it's easier now to process, and there's other things you can do and to make it go by faster. Just be honest and don't bring stuff that you shouldn't bring. Have your paperwork, your boarding pass, and have your passport ready when you go up to the thing. That's the first thing they'll ask, no matter where you go. And just answer the questions fast and quick and efficient, because you have a bunch of people in front of you and behind you, and you just don't, let's go by quickly. So we got out of Dublin. I did not do a smart thing when I came into the country of Ireland, because I didn't want to bring a credit card or a debit card, because like, oh, I'm just going to bring American cash and I'm just going to exchange it at banks and stuff like that to get my European cash. So I carried a big wad of US dollars, and that was a mistake. So, but I did find a exchange counter to exchange about like $200 worth of US to euros. And the exchange rate of it is probably about, what is it? $1 dollar was about 75 cents US dollar. So it's about $1.25 per euro dollar. But it wasn't that bad. And also, a great thing about in European countries, the sales tax is included into the price. And a lot of times they will round it to the nearest dollar. So you get like a Coke. It's like, this Coke is worth $2. And you pay only $2 with it. No extra change. It's like, oh, here you go. It makes things so much faster and easier. And the lines, if there's a line, it's like pop, pop, pop. It goes by pretty quickly. So we landed in Dublin at the airport. And so we took a shuttle bus from the airport to the town center, which is where we made our reservation for our hotel. And it took 30 minutes there, but the bus trip was probably about 10 euros or maybe 7. I can't remember. It wasn't that much. And you just wait there. They drop you off anywhere. They have several drop-off spots throughout Dublin. And I think they try to hit like most every area. So like the airport was north of town of Dublin, and it took us about 40 minutes to get to town center. So, and we had about like 3, 4, 5, or 6 stops too. So it's pretty efficient, pretty quick. We got there, and since we got there it's like 8 a.m. at this point, so it's early. Our room was not ready because we got there at 8 a.m. and most rooms and hotels or places don't have stuff ready for you till like afternoon or late afternoon. But most places and all the places we've been to, if you go to the place before you're ready for you, they'll look after your bags. Or if you're checked out and need to spend the rest of the day in town, they'll watch your bags till you depart. It's a very common courtesy thing too. So we got there, dropped off our bags. I think we went to the Dublin Castle first, and it was right across the street from our hotel. So we went to Dublin's castle, and this was kind of like my first castle I've ever saw. I guess, yeah, it was. So it's very Gothic, very old, very big. We walked across the street, went up as you can see from the pictures, there's a lot of stuff to check out. So the castle was dated back in 1204. The castle offers 2 museums, a cafe, and a beautiful garden, which we attended. It's very nice, very beautiful. We didn't go to the museum because it cost about €10 to check out, and we kind of have other plans before then. And it's not, $10 is $10. It's not that expensive to see some cool, like, old castle ruins or whatnot. I'm not for sure what's inside. We walked outside of the lobby and then the outdoors part. So we went to the garden part instead. It has a great, like, garden area. You can see where the stables where they put the horses from, because back then horses was the way to travel. But it was constructed in the early 13th century on the site of a Viking settlement. And there's a lot of Viking settlements here in Ireland. But the Dublin Castle served for centuries as the headquarters of the English and later British administrations in Ireland before they became a free country, before they became the Republic of Ireland in 1922. But now it's just a major government complex and key tourist attraction. But this is and when we were in the gardens, this was kind of our first key of there was a lot of people in town, especially this early. It's about like 8:30 a.m. And I found out that today was May Day, I think it's May Day, which is European Labor Day. So we ironically exploring Dublin on their Labor Day, a touristy holiday where people have the day off and they want to do things, explore things, and do things. So that was fun and interesting and kind of like, oh, that's weird how that worked out for us. Trying to avoid the crowd for the summertime, but end up going to one of the major holidays in Europe. But then we went to our Starbucks before we went to the Trinity College. I think at the time my girlfriend, was really big in Starbucks and kind of still is. So we got some coffee. I needed the coffee because I was tired, haven't slept. And the thing so the jet lag part about falling asleep. So if you have jet lag, my advice is either fall asleep on the plane, because that'd be the best scenario since you can be rested and your day won't be as bad. But if that can't happen, then you have to stay awake for the rest of the day till it's a nighttime where it's reasonable for you to fall asleep, like past 8:30. Well, I didn't fall asleep on the plane, so I had to wait a whole day. Like it's pretty much going through an all-nighter. And I was so tired, and my eyes were so dry. So we got some coffee early morning. And then we went to the Trinity College. Now, the Trinity College was founded in 1823. And one of the biggest things that I took away from the gorgeous landscapes and architecture of the buildings was these giant trees. I don't know what kind of trees they were. I may have took a picture of it. I might post it here on the video side of things. But yeah, these big oak trees or something, I don't know, but just they're massively big. And I think I have a picture on here to show you the scale size of an adult man. sitting next to one of those. But the biggest thing for the Trinity College was the Book of Kells. And the Book of Kells was kind of on my bucket list of photography things to say. You might recognize it. It's a big, long library. You've probably seen it from a lot of pictures, movies, TV shows, all types of stuff. And the Book of Kells is an illuminated manuscript of the 4 Gospels of the Christian New Testament, and it's currently housed at the Trinity College. Now, the work is mostly famous for the medieval illuminated manuscripts and the details and the majesty of the illustrations. It's thought the book was created as a showpiece of the altar and not for daily use. But it's more of the art, like the visual art style of the manuscripts versus the words itself that really stood out. So they kept these at the Book of Kells, and you actually see these before you get to that big long library. And they kept it in a very darker room, and behind glass plates. But before we get to the Book of Kells, there was a big long line already about 9 a.m. in the morning, kind of like S-shaped out into the campus and around. And we got to the end and we're just signing, kind of talking things over with, because it's already a long line, so we were just trying to work things out. Then we got approached by 2 students. These 2 students told us about, hey, fun fact about this place, students can get in for free. And we can have guests with us for free as well. So they offer us a deal is, hey, we'll get you into the Book of Kells. You just pay us the administration tickets instead. So the tickets at the time was about $10, €10 at the time, and now they cost about $18.50. So inflation happened since then. So we talked. It was like, hey, you guys are our pen pals from all the way from Ireland. We just happened to see each other the first time and all this time communicating with each other. So that was our story. We got in and we got us a pass for free and got in, pay our money to the students instead. And it was fun. We got inside and went through, saw the manuscripts and everything. It's kind of your basic museum set up. No flash photography because it'll ruin the images on the manuscripts. Once you go through there, you get to this long book room, which is famous. Very photogenic place, very crowded place. You get a lot of people, but really the room's so massive that the people are tiny compared to what the room offers. You can tell from these pictures. We spent probably an hour just looking at the details of the room, and there's some manuscripts in the middle of the room too. And they have these marvelous sculptures of heads of famous people in all through history. I definitely would recommend going there if you go to Dublin. And again, no flash photography, but I use my camera. No flash is needed, so that's always good. So then after we left there, our next big adventure was the Guinness Brewery. The Guinness Brewery factory, or I guess the Guinness Brewery. But I like the beer. I like to drink beer, and this place seemed like an easy thing. I heard, the rumor was, you pay to do the tour, and you get a free drink at the end of it, which is great. So we tried to go to the brewery, and the fun fact about in Europe, with me, I don't have phone service unless it's Wi-Fi. So I had to do things by memory, or if I have a tourist map. So we walked down the street and trying to find this place. And I'm not for sure if we had lunch or not that day, but we eventually went to a place that we thought we were not going to be able to make it because they're kind of in 2 different locations. One was the Guinness was about north west, but the St. Patrick's Cathedral, which is another big landmark place for Dublin, was southeast or southwest of it. Well, I took a wrong turn, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, look, this big cathedral church. Happened to be the St. Patrick's Cathedral. I was like, oh, I took the wrong turn. I am lost. So we looked outside, took some pictures, and we went inside. And this is probably my first big Catholic church in Europe. I've been to a couple in the States, not a lot of big ones. But we went inside, and it costs you about €9 to kind of look around inside, and it's good. I'll pay that much for the money goes towards the upkeep of the building, and it was gorgeous. St. Patrick's Cathedral was like, oh, this is a nice place, church. I was like, would it really be a big deal? And it was. It lived up to the expectations, or I guess the hype that was given to me. But you can see the details inside from all the art and the walls and the building, like how much money was put into it, and how much people take this. The Catholic religion in Ireland is taken pretty seriously, in family too, family and Catholics, and like you can see this from these pictures of how detailed and how variety of stuff that's in it. And I would recommend, if you have time to go there. It's only €9, get some pictures. But yeah, and after that we went to the brewery. And to get there, I kept seeing bags, like these big black bags of the brewery, and their name Guinness on it. So I was like, I think we're getting closer. And then the road and the steps became more bricked, so more olden. It's like, okay. And we came across this sign, this big, like, I like to call it the Willy Wonka sign. It's like this big open gate with the name Guinness on it. It's like, oh, here it is. So we have to walk around it. And then saw more people walking away with bags of Guinness and stuff like that. So I was like, it's a good sign. So then we came to the entrance, and we do the self-guided tour, which you pay. At this time today, you would pay €34 to get per person to get in, and then I can't remember how much it cost back then, but it doesn't really matter because it's 34 now. It's self-guided, so you get to walk your own pace. You could see things your own way, style, and stuff like that. You could take pictures, which I recommend. But once you get in, you see this glass floor on the bottom, and there's a contract, a lease, an old lease that was written in 1759. Once you get there, you found out they signed a 9,000-year lease for the building. Now, at that time, in 1759, the lease cost €45 a year. Now, back then, it probably cost a lot. But now, they're paying €45 per year in this multi-million-dollar place. And I'm not for sure of the history of it, too. I should have looked it up. But we were talking about it, and my partner, she was like, I don't think they would buy the building because you can save on taxes from the land itself. Because if you buy it, you got to buy property tax as well. I was like, that's pretty true. But it was interesting because at the first part of the tour, you kind of get the idea of how they make their beer, the basic stuff. Like, here's the barley, here's what we do, here's the hops we use, and they have some fun examples. And then they talked about the history of the distributions of it, like the cases in Ireland. But then, like, Ireland is an island, so like, how do they get that overseas? So they showed these models of boats, how they would transport them overseas, trains, and how this become like a big corporation. The horse, like, they're pretty big on their horse history, about how horses was like the first original like transporters for these beers to the pubs. So they were very honorable for like horses, and very prideful about their history and how they expanded so big. But Another thing about the tour too, like it was very weird and wonky a little bit. Like it's some a lot of random stuff, and it reminded me of Willy Wonka the Chocolate Factory, except it's beer. And it was just some random stuff. Like all of a sudden you just see this tortoise statue. When we do our tasting, I'll explain that later. The room was like a white room with these like this fog or mist coming out from the ground, very mystical. So you do the tour, you get a free beer at the end of it, but along the way you can pay €2 to learn how to pour your own beer for Guinness. And Guinness, it has a special way of how to pour it. So they teach us one by one at a bar, have a little draft, and just pour it open. And they teach you how to do it. I think I did okay. And then for $2, you get a little certificate. It's like, oh, you're official Guinness pourer, which I don't know how legit that is or not for $2. But with those $2, you get a pint of beer for $2. And I ask you this, people, can you buy a $2 pint of Guinness anywhere in the world? So I got that. And then we did the tour, did a small tasting. They did a tasting for like these small like shot glasses of Guinness. And they said it's like freshly brewed Guinness beer. So we did that. My partner, she doesn't like beer, so I did her tasting. So right now I had a pint and 2 shots of Guinness. So I'm feeling pretty good. I can't remember what happens after that because I think we went to they gave us our tickets to the restaurant area or the pub area for Guinness. The restaurant's located on top of the building. So one, it's kind of very glass open. You can see most of the town of Dublin up there. And it's kind of a variety of people who's kind of hanging out, some tour people, and there's a restaurant there as well. And I had my free beer, and then I had her free beer. So I was feeling pretty good. And after that's over, you can go to the gift shop. I think I got a mug for my dad. I can't remember. And maybe some other things. But so we went back to our hotel. The room was ready, and European rooms in hotels are very small. Like, don't expect to be in there for all day for leisure and fun. And they're built to be like, hey, you're staying here to sleep and go to the bathroom or use a shower. So, a very small room. The building we were staying at is pretty old, so but it was comfortable. It was nice. The bathrooms were small as well. So I think my partner, she went to bed early, and then I went to the Temple Bar close to in Dublin, and it was about like maybe a block and a half where we were staying. And I had another beer, a beer there. It was nice, and the setup was really cool because, like, I guess most famous bars in the U.S. and stuff like that, there's always like 1 or 2 main bars, but here it's like every little room. Like you go to you enter the Temple Bar and you see the bar, but then you turn a corner and there's another bar, and then you find out that a lot of these places are kind of interconnected a little bit. So you kind of turn a corner and there's another space, there's a bar. If you go to another space, there's a bar. So you can easily find a spot for a table and not a long line for a beer, which is nice. Had a drink there to say I did it and left and went to bed. Finally. Slept all night. Felt great the next day because I got my eternal clock was set nicely. Felt more relaxed, yeah. And then it's our way to Cork. We picked Cork because we wanted to go to the Blarney Castle, and we kind of found the city kind of more interesting. Cork was kind of more of like an artsy music type town versus Dublin's kind of more industrial in a way. So, but we traveled by train. We did the train pass, which was about, like I said, like you can travel any 5 days within 15 days when you started using it. And the train took about 3 hours to get there. So the train was we took the light rail subway in Dublin, traveled about, I think 6 or 7 blocks. And then we took the train, and the train arrived in Cork about, it was like afternoon. And it was kind of probably like a half a mile for a couple of kilometers from the downtown central part of Cork. So it was actually a good spot. And it was actually like maybe kind of a couple of blocks away from our bread and breakfast where we're staying. But the time that we were staying in Cork, it was the start of their music festival for the month. And that was fun. They have a lot of outdoor street musicians, music, and some fun atmosphere to it. A lot of people are drawing stuff on the sidewalks. Always recommend check out the market there. They have a lot of local butchers, seafood, produce. So if you're staying in Cork for about a week or so, if you want some meals to cook and make for yourself, recommend that place. Or if you're looking for kind of like some gift stuff from snack foods and stuff like that, it's a great place to go check out too. So we planned to go to Blarney Castle and kiss the stone. But this was when my huge rookie mistake kicked in of my cash. So I was trying to exchange my US dollars into euros, but the banks were closed that day. So I spent hours of trying to find a place for me to exchange my money so we can get bus tickets to see the Blarney Castle. Well, it came too late. I missed my opportunity of going to the bus. Eventually, though, I did find a kind of an internet cafe that does the exchange. So I'll tell you this, if you travel European or internationally, don't bring American cash with you. Use a traveling credit card or have a debit card that your bank allows to do international stuff. If you go to an ATM machine and get some money out, the interest rates is much, much cheaper than the interest rates that I had to go through to exchange my cash on hand. Or if you use a credit card, you can just pay the credit card off when you come back from your trip. That's a good way to build your credit up too if you already have the money saved. So did that, unable to go to the Blarney Castle. So we ate some food, some fish and chips in Ireland, which was delicious. And then we had some fun at a pub that night, watched some river dancing. And the fun part of this was the National Women's Rugby Team of Canada was there that night too. So we kind of hang out with them. And they were apparently missing one person on their roster that couldn't make it. So I tried to recruit my girlfriend, Nadia, to join. And she was like, no, I'm not. I was like, what's the I was like, how many opportunities do you get to be on a women's national team? One of the coolest things, one of my favorite things about Ireland and Europe is like the metric system is in place. So a pint of beer is much bigger than a pint of beer here in the US. Like they offer more volume. I think I have a picture on here that I'm going to post here and show. But we had some fun in Cork, drank some nice drinks, had some amazing cider, walked back to our bed and breakfast, and our bed and breakfast place, our lady who owned it was so nice. In Ireland, Irish people are so nice and so good. We got there, and when we walked off the train, and we reserved a room and the price, and we were willing to pay for it. And she mentioned, hey, there's another place open up that's cheaper, another spot, another building that they own. So showed us this. It's like, this will cost you about, I think, $10, $15 less. So she was offering us a different room, a little cheaper than the one we agreed to pay. I was like, no, that's fine. We'll pick the one that we picked. We liked it. It has a great view of the city too, a little high up on the hill. So, yeah, I mean, she was nice and great. And the breakfast the next day was great and marvelous. We had an Irish breakfast. And my first Irish breakfast there was nice. It's like, you eat it and I feel like you're pretty full for the rest of the day. And that was my first experience with that. And I'd try to replicate that for a couple other places I'd been to. We went to St. Lucia this past winter, and there's a lot of British, a lot of people from the UK that travel there. But the Irish breakfast, English breakfast was incredible. So we said our goodbyes. We left Cork and went to Galloway. And at this time, we're walking around a lot, and this is when my legs were getting a little tired. Like I got the walking a lot. So I would recommend if you are traveling overseas in Europe, walk a bit. I mean, walk like, I don't know, like get some exercise with your legs. I'm not asking you to do a marathon or run a 5K, but go outside and walk for like a half an hour or so and get your legs muscles built up, because if you don't, then day 2 of your trip, your legs will be tired and you still have to walk to get to your places. I mean, eventually, like, your legs will get used to it and get better after a day or so. So we went to Galloway from Cork. So we took the train from Cork into Galloway. It was about like a 2-hour, 3-hour trip there. And Galloway is kind of like on the central western coastline of Ireland. And that's where they have the Cliffs of Moher there. So a big iconic scene of Ireland. So we went to Galloway, and it was very Gothic, very old town, especially the city central. And the train station stopped in like a block from the city central area. So we walked out there and get to our hotel. And most places in Europe too, like a lot of the central places, there's places roped off so cars can't get there, so you can easily walk on the street and not worried about getting run over. It's nice because pedestrians don't have the right of way. So if they hit you, it's your own fault. So we stayed at a boutique hotel, which was nice and cute. I think it's like 1 room per floor. This was a very small place, kind of squished into between 2 buildings. And we got there, and again, looking for a bank to exchange my money because I spent too much on alcohol the night before. Went to a bank. They said they're closing and they don't have the exchange, so they recommend another place. And when the ladies came out with us and started talking to us and recommended some places and like, where you're staying, and goes way beyond their way of just helping us and make it feel like we're accommodating here in Galloway. And that's another example of the Irish, like, niceness of it. Is like, wow, Irish people in the U.S. are like this, because their customer service was amazing. So I found a bank, exchanged my money, then we ate at the King's Head Bistro. I had the crab claws, which was delicious, and my partner claims she had the best steak ever there, and she's a pretty good steak lover. Loves the meat. And the crab claws itself is pretty good. I was kind of cautious about it. I was like, I'm the type of person who's like, well, I'm at this location. When's the next time I'm going to have a chance to eat something kind of unusual? And if I don't like it, then it's like, I can go back to eating something else. So the crab claws was amazing. It was a very buttery, very like tender crab meat on the claws. So went to Galloway, left the bistro, and then we went to a pub. And a lot of these, if you're a whiskey lover, the best thing about these pubs is like a lot of times they have like a whiskey of the month special. And a lot of times the one we went to had a special of a whiskey called the Red Breast. Usually it's a 10-year-old whiskey, and in the U.S. it costs about $70 average. Or if you're buying a glass at a pub or a bar in the U.S., it'll cost about $12 plus for a glass. So here in Galloway, in Ireland, where the whiskey is made, they had a special of Red Breast for about, I think like €6 for a glass. So I had a couple of those. But it's really cheap, and it was so good. But yeah, if you're a whiskey lover, come here, like go to Ireland, because like they have some good deals and you get to try some whiskeys that you maybe a little too expensive for your taste back home. So the next day we took a bus tour, and I'm not a big fan of bus tours because I feel like they rush you sometimes and they kind of herd you along, and you feel like you're not at a spot long enough to enjoy it, especially if you like some list. And also you don't feel like you're on the bus the entire time. But this one, we had to pick a tour bus or something to get to the Cliffs of Moher because we can't travel there by car. We could do it by bus. So there's a lot of other places around the area that I was kind of interested in. And like the Burren, and there's some other castles too. So we did the tour bus. It was going to be gone for most of the day. First, we stopped at a castle. The castle was kind of set up next to like this, kind of like, I guess, a cove or a bay that leads out to the Atlantic Ocean. We stayed there for about 10, 20 minutes, enough time to walk around, go inside. The castle itself offers a tour of it too, a museum tour, which we couldn't do because we didn't have time. I think the castle is called, I'm sorry if I butchered this, the Dungeray Castle. And then after that, we went to a ancient burial ground in the Burren. The Burren is kind of a nice, interesting location. It's it's kind of rocky with a lot of holes in it. There's a lot of limestone. And over the years, a bunch of the sea wind and the ocean air and the rain kind of eroded a lot of this stuff. So you get these interesting holes. It looks like kind of a rocky Swiss cheese. We saw an ancient burial ground there, as you can see from the pictures if you're online. There's like these stone tablets, and they're not for sure who was buried there. They recommend, or they think it's someone important tribal leader or someone really important in the area thousands of years ago. So after that, we had lunch at a pub in the small town. I had some bangers and mash is what I had, which was delicious. Had a pint of Guinness, and I loved it. The beer culture in Ireland is amazing. Like, you can have yourself a beer on, I'm going to sound like an alcoholic, but you can have a beer for lunch, and no one's going to bat an eye or judge you for it. These ladies having a pint, just having a casual business talk. So I like the culture there. It's just very casual, very easygoing. But anyways, back to the tour. So we went after the pub, we went to the Cliffs of Moher. We stayed there for about 90 minutes stay. And it was amazing. Like, we were able to walk pretty good distance. You could saw one of the watchtowers on it, which was amazing. And you got to, just explore a little bit. It was a nice breeze, nice day too. I got some great pictures of that, so I'm going to have you guys have a chance to look at that. But after that, we went back to Galway. I'm not for sure what we did after that. We went back. I think we had some meat pies across the street, which was amazing. It was pretty much like a chicken pot pie they sold there. After that, next day, our train didn't leave till later. So we just went some souvenir shopping. One of the biggest exports in Ireland is wool, and they make a lot of stuff out of wool too, like hoodies, jackets, shirts, everything. Everything's wool. So we got some souvenirs, took the train back to Dublin, and wait till the next day for our flight to come back. So, and the cool thing about our trip, our budget was about $2,000. I had about like $500 left from our airlines, our stays, our foods, drinks, costs. And was pretty, I don't know, very generous of our spending too. But yeah, the hotels average about like $35, $40 a night there from the bed and breakfast and the boutique hotel. So there's some good cheap stays too. And again, like, the rooms and the bathrooms are usable and good. You can stay there and that's a good way to save money too. But yeah, that's the end of our trip. That's our kind of our Irish trip. If you stay here longer enough, you can see a highlight video or it's like a slideshow of our Irish trip. Again, you can watch this on Spotify. Come support us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Really helps the channel out, helps the podcast out, and we can hopefully grow this more. Like I said, I want to do more. These nature, landscape, travels, adventure stuff is fun, but I would love to do like something about food, like kind of one podcast dedicated about foods for a location, or and get our guest on that does different things or different culture things and teach us some new stuff. So let us know what kind of future other stuff that you would like to visit. Would you ever like to visit Ireland? What places would you recommend if you have already visited in Ireland? But yeah, thanks for joining. Thanks for giving us a listen, and we appreciate that. And I'd like to say goodbye to our travelers out there. Please check us out on Welcome Travelers Podcast, and have a good day.